Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a profession that's, well, it's often overlooked, but honestly, it's surprisingly crucial. School bus attendants.
Yeah.
You might think, okay, riding a bus, but I'm telling you, there's way more to it
Way more, dude.
than meets the eye.
Oh, yeah.
We've been looking at some stuff from RoleCatcher, their career development platform, and their insights into this field they're really fascinating. Did you know that there are actual career stages?
Really?
Like a progression in being a school bus attendant?
Absolutely. And each one of those stages comes with, a whole other list of things you got to be responsible for. We're not just talking about, keeping kids from, bouncing off the walls.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Yeah.
What exactly do school bus attendants do every day? And what kind of skills are we even talking about here?
Well, you got to imagine you're responsible for, a whole busload of kids, right? Each one of them with their own personality and their needs, making sure that they get to school and back home.
Yeah.
Safe. I mean, you're the one navigating, those potential problems. You're assisting students with disabilities, and you're like an extra set of eyes for the bus driver.
Oh, for sure. And handling any emergencies. I mean, that could be anything that pops up along the way.
Yeah.
It's like a crash course in child psychology, crisis management, maybe even a little superhero training thrown in there.
Oh, yeah. You're not far off.
Right.
It's a unique blend of skills, to handle everything this job throws at you. I mean, not just anyone can wrangle a bus full of kids.
Right.
And be ready to handle like a medical emergency at the same time.
Yeah. It really makes you think about, those school buses in a whole new light. Speaking of which, RoleCatcher also pointed out how technology is really changing things up for school bus safety.
Yeah. Forget what you thought you knew about those big yellow buses.
Right.
I mean, we're talking GPS tracking, cameras, even AI is working its way into this.
AI on a school bus.
Okay.
I really want to hear more about that. It's fascinating how much goes on behind the scenes, really, to make sure that those kids are safe. But let's back up for a sec and talk about those career stages you mentioned. You said there's an actual progression.
Absolutely. It's not just one size fits all. So, you start at the entry level, you got your school bus attendant trainee. Yeah, it's like an apprenticeship. Like you're paired up with a more experienced attendant. You're learning the ropes, seeing how it's done, seeing how they handle those situations. Like, de-escalating stuff. So you can build up those skills and that confidence to handle anything, really.
So you're not just thrown to the wolves, or should I say thrown to the rambunctious kids on that first day.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But eventually, those training wheels got to come off, right? So what's it like for someone who's, reached that full-fledged school bus attendant level? What does a typical day even look like?
Well, let's just say the day starts early. Early morning routes, making sure every single student gets to school safe and sound and on time.
Well, of course.
Throughout the day, it's just about being there, being present, keeping an eye on things, monitoring that behavior, making sure all the rules are being followed, and just being that support system for the driver, really.
A carefully choreographed dance, but with like a lot more energy and maybe a few extra steps thrown in.
Yeah. You could say that.
Right.
And just like a good dance partner, they got to be adaptable, quick on their feet. Because you got to remember, we're dealing with, like I said, a whole bus full of personalities, different energy levels, maybe even some of those pre-test jitters.
Oh, for sure. Every day is different. And those kids are definitely not shy about living their personalities,
Oh, no.
Speaking of personalities, though, we got to talk about student behavior on the bus. Because RoleCatcher really stressed the importance of, like, setting those boundaries and expectations right from day one.
Absolutely. It's all about creating that, that culture of respect on the bus.
Right.
Making it very clear that this isn't a free-for-all joyride.
Right, right. So, okay, but how do you actually DO that? I mean, you're talking about all these kids from different backgrounds, different ideas of, what flies and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So what are some of those tactics that school bus attendants actually use to kind of keep things in order when things are, a little lively?
You're not trying to be a drill sergeant. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not about, you're not trying to be an authoritarian on the bus. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. Instead of just focusing on what they're doing wrong and yelling at them, trying to catch them doing something good, acknowledge it,
Okay. So like a bus driver's assistant of the day award for like the most helpful student.
There you go. You got it.
Okay.
It's amazing. A little positive recognition goes a long way.
I bet. But let's be real. There are times when, the sticker's just not going to cut it. So how do school bus attendants deal with the more, I guess, serious behavioral stuff when it pops up?
Well, I think that's where, that clear communication and those de-escalation techniques, they're really important. It's all about addressing it head on, but calmly, right?
Right.
Assertively. So they're trained to, redirect that bad behavior, set those boundaries, but still treat the kids with respect.
Right. It's a balance.
Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, you've got to maintain that order, but you don't want it to feel like a prison.
Right.
I have to say, I have a newfound appreciation for the amount of composure and patience it takes to do this job well.
Oh, for sure. And let's not forget about those curveballs, too, like medical emergencies, right?
Yeah, because it's not always fun and games back there. Yeah. Things can get, they get serious quickly, especially on a moving vehicle. What happens? I don't know. Like if a student gets sick or has an allergic reaction or even gets hurt somehow on the bus.
That's when all those first responder skills, they really kick in, because a lot of times they are the first one on the scene. Yeah. It's not just about knowing how to put on a Band-Aid. We're talking CPR, first aid, maybe even having to, figure out how to get in touch with emergency services and stuff.
Right. So like you're on a moving medical team.
Yeah.
But your patients are, a bus full of unpredictable kids.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right.
It takes someone special to stay calm, see what's going on, and then take action, right?
Yeah.
When it matters.
Yeah.
And it really just highlights how important those certifications are.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of important, one thing that really stood out to me from RoleCatcher was the technology that's being used for all this. Because apparently it's not just about, the little yellow stop signs anymore.
Oh, no. Technology's changing the whole game. I mean, we're talking GPS tracking, not only for the logistics side of things, but for security, too.
Okay.
Parents know where their kid's bus is at all times.
Okay, that's pretty cool. No more wondering if the bus broke down or took a wrong turn.
Right, exactly. And then, you've got cameras. Those are getting more and more common. And not just catch the kids drawing on the windows.
Right.
It helps to deter things like bullying, vandalism, and if something does happen, you've got that evidence.
It's like having an extra set of eyes.
Exactly.
Which I'm sure is reassuring for everyone.
Absolutely.
Parents, administrators.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, reacting to things after they've happened. RoleCatcher also talked about how AI is being used to prevent these safety issues from happening.
Wait, so AI on a school bus? I have to admit, I'm picturing like this futuristic self-driving bus with like a robot attendant. But I'm guessing it's not quite that sci-fi yet, right?
Yeah. You're right. Not quite. Not quite to the robot attendant yet, but it's still pretty amazing. So we're talking systems that can detect, like if the driver's getting drowsy, monitor the road conditions, even spot hazards in real time.
See, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like having a co-pilot who's always paying attention.
Always on.
Right.
It's all about using that technology to keep those kids as safe as possible. And it's not even just on the buses either. RoleCatcher even mentioned that it's being used in the hiring process.
Really? So even getting your foot in the door is getting more high tech.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So they have this tool. It looks at the job description, right? And then it helps the people applying tailor their resume so that it really highlights the skills that particular job is looking for.
So it's like having a personal branding expert who knows exactly what the hiring manager wants.
There you go.
Wow.
You got it.
Okay.
In today's job market, that can give you a real edge. It just goes to show how technology is really a part of every aspect of this.
Yeah, it's clear that the world of school bus attendants, it's definitely not stagnant.
No.
It's constantly, evolving.
Absolutely.
Finding new ways to do things.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to the safety and well-being of those kids.
That's the important part.
Right.
Yeah. But for all this talk about, technology and all that, can't forget about the core of it all, right?
Right.
Being a school bus attendant, it's more than a job. It's kind of a calling,
It takes a special kind of person, that's for sure.
Yeah, you gotta have that heart for it, that passion for working with kids.
Yeah.
And really want to create that positive environment for them, even if it's just on that bus.
Right. Speaking of those buses, let's not forget about those those career paths. We know it's not all about, just clocking in those hours behind the wheel. RoleCatcher's talking about some pretty cool opportunities to keep growing in this field. So for someone who's like, hey, I'm good at this whole, school bus attendant thing.
Right.
What's next? Where can this path take you?
Well, we talked about those trainees. That's usually the first step, right? Yeah. You're learning, getting that experience, figuring out if it's the right fit.
So it's School Bus Attendant Boot Camp. But instead of obstacle courses, it's learning how to wrangle those backpacks and
break up a juice box fight.
Exactly.
Right.
You got to get those skills down, build that confidence, and then you graduate. You're in the big leagues now. You're a real school bus attendant.
You're out there solo, managing a whole bus of kids.
That's right.
That's quite an accomplishment. But what's next? Can you climb higher on that on that ladder? Absolutely. If you're you're a natural leader, you got that senior school bus attendant position.
Okay.
You're like the captain of the fleet.
Okay, I like it. Yeah. So what does a captain of a school bus fleet, what do they even do?
Well, you're not just responsible for your own bus anymore, right? You've got a whole team of attendants that you're looking after, making sure everybody's on the same page, doing the training, working with the school administrators and the parents.
So you're managing.
Oh, yeah.
You're mentoring.
Anything solving.
Problem solving.
You're the show.
You're basically running the show.
Pretty much.
Wow.
It takes, not just those skills with the kids, but those leadership skills too, right?
Right.
You got to be organized, and you got to know everything about student transportation.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's like so many other career paths. You start with the basics, you get good at what you do,
right,
and then you can move into that leadership role. You can guide other people.
Oh, exactly, and for some, it even goes beyond that. RoleCatcher was saying how some of those senior attendants, they end up in supervisory roles, overseeing the whole transportation department.
Wow, so now you're talking about budgets and schedules and making sure all the buses are running on time.
That's right.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. But it just shows you, there's room to grow in this field. You could start as a trainee right out of high school and work your way all the way up to management.
It's pretty inspiring to see how much opportunity is out there in a job that I think a lot of people, don't even consider.
I think so, too.
And we get so focused on these, traditional career paths, but there are so many others out there that are fulfilling and impactful, like you said. And school bus attendant is definitely one of those.
I completely agree. It reminds you that sometimes the most rewarding jobs are the ones where you're really making a difference.
That's a great point.
Yeah, especially for for young people.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive here into the world of school bus attendants, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners take away from this?
I hope that next time they see one of those big yellow buses, they look at it a little differently, with an appreciation for the people inside. Because they're doing so much more than just driving.
That's a good way to put it.
Keeping those kids safe, being mentors to them, really shaping their lives in a way that most people don't even realize.
That's a good point. We don't even think about that. So next time you see a school bus, give a little nod to those unsung heroes.
Absolutely.
Those school bus attendants, because they're the ones making sure those kids are getting where they need to be safely.
Every day.
And that's a big deal.
That's huge.
It is. Well, thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep diving deep.